Alright, so here's the other item that I picked up at the flea market. This was at a different vendor. Happened to be walking around and saw this vendor he had over on the edge of his piles of stuff. Spotted a Kennedy Machinist toolbox, and it was a typical like 7 or 8 draw that I've actually got 3 or 4 of, and so I certainly didn't need another one of those, but I had to stop and go through it and make sure there wasn't anything good in it, and it had already been pretty much emptied out. He was just basically selling the box. And then sitting kind of like right behind it off to the side of it was this box, and I took a quick look and I was like, oh well, I just took a quick look inside and I was like, oh, what the heck is that thing? First I thought it was a meat grinding attachment or something. So I read the end of it, wasn't quite exactly sure what it was, but pulled out my phone and Googled it real quick and found out that some of these are pretty expensive. So I said, I'll take a chance on it maybe. So I asked him how much he wanted for the Kennedy box, and I think he said $40. And I said, well, what do you want for this thing? And he said, he said $5. And then before I could even say okay to buying this for $5, he said, well, you thinking of buying the two? How about 30 for the two? And I thought for a second. I thought, well, he already said I could have this for $5. I'd be buying the Kennedy box for $25. The box was a little rough. If I needed a Kennedy box, $25 was a good deal for that box. But I didn't need another box, so I just said, I tell you what, I'll give you the $5 for that piece there. So this is what I ended up buying from for $5. And what I ended up getting for $5 is something called, I haven't even taken this out and looked at it yet, other than just to see what model it was. But this is something called a K11 cut-all. And cut-all is spelled C-U-T-A-W-L, as in awl, like an awl for poking things. And this is manufactured by the Cut-all Company of Bethel, Connecticut, USA. I believe that they're still in business. I believe they're actually still making some of these models. And what this is I guess the best way to describe it would be to describe it as a precision scroll saw. And after Googling it, doing a little research, I found out that this is highly sought after by anyone making that by sign making people, whether they're making sign in different types of foam board or plywood, or this can even, apparently according to the manual, be used in thin metal. It's got some mildew on it. Obviously, it's been sitting in a cord's got mildew on it, so it's obviously been sitting in a damp environment. You got 2 switches here. This switch here is a 3-position switch. It's got high, off, and low for the speed. And then this switch right over here is actually for a lamp. It's supposed to be a light in here that actually lights this thing up. And what this is this is basically got a special type of blade, and the blade, I think, is reciprocating, goes up and down. And I believe that's how the thing actually works. And then it's got, basically you slide it around to position it, and you use these ball handles here to control it. And like one of the things I read online, basically this makes it very easy for supposedly even a novice to do pretty intricate work with this thing. So this is kind of neat. You might think the back cover's missing, but all the pictures I've seen online, they look exactly like this. So I don't think there ever was a cover to cover this. And looking at it, I could see right off the bat, it's missing the drive belt. By the looks of it, there's a step pulley here, so it looks like you could actually put the pulley in one of 2 positions. Okay. Anyways, so obviously it's not going to work without the belt. this is spinning freely and making that thing go up and down, so that's a good sign. So I guess what I'll do is, let's plug it in and see if the motor works. There's an idler right here for the belt that actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. But the idler arm is spring-loaded, and this must be what puts tension on the belt. And when I put it like this, you'll see it doesn't go back. So the starters, this pivot point right here needs to be disassembled clean and re-greased. I think that's just got old grease on it that's gummed up. There's actually almost like some wax on this idler pulley too. Alright, so let's just check if the motor's free. The motor is free. That's good. Well, the light works. That's kind of cool that they got the light right there so you can have light directly on where you're working. Let's see, let's try low speed first. Down is low speed. Oh yeah, that's humming right along. That motor sounds real good. No bearing noise. That's a really good sign. Alright, so I went online and found out that the belt that goes on this thing is it's what's called a round belt, which means that if you cut the cross section, in other words, a V belt is called a V belt because you've got part of a V. If you cut it and you look at cross sectionally, you see a part of a V. Well, a round belt, if you cut it and you look at the cross section, you see a circle. And that's what this used. And the only thing I've ever run into that used round belts back in the day was when I was doing television and video work and stuff like that. We also often worked on, we had some contracts, one of the companies I worked for, and we worked on a lot of audiovisual equipment. Movie projectors, things like that they still used in the schools back then. And a lot of that type of equipment used round belts. So round belts aren't that common now. So I actually found online, there is a website you can go to and you can buy replacement belts for this. The replacement belt for this, they want $35 for. I can tell you right now, I'm probably going to be able to source a round belt from some other source that has the dimensions that will work on this thing for a probably about half that cost. The other thing that site had is they had replacement cutters, the little special cutters that this thing uses. And the cutters, they sell them in a pack of 10, and I want to say they're like $100 for a pack of 10. So they're basically charging you like $10 per cutter for this thing. So I'm going to put this off to the side for the moment, and let's go through the box here and see what we have in the box. Maybe we got lucky and we got some cutters with it. Well, I got lots of great news and some unfortunate news, depending on how you look at it. But alright, so the first bit of unfortunate news is based on this piece of paperwork that I just found in here and a couple other things. It looks like whoever owned this opted for the what was probably an optional circle cutting attachment, which it says as an extra option, a special attachment, part number blah 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 blah, is available for the model K11 cut-all machine. They made a K10, a K11, and a K12 apparently. And the K10, I guess they discontinued, and I think the K11 and K12 might still be available. But anyways, what this basically did was it was an adjustable bar that allowed you to turn this into a very useful circle cutter for cutting large diameter circles in thin material. So anyways, the reason why I think that this guy had this, and it's not here obviously and probably lost, is the fact that this paper was in here. And also I saw this wooden handle, which at first I thought was just a file handle that had been erroneously left in there. But then I noticed that in the picture here, that looks like the wooden handle. It's right there on the end of this bar. And this screw looks like it's the screw that held it on there. I keep wiping this stuff because there is a tube of lube that came with this in here that has leaked and made a mess on some of the stuff. Tube looked like it was completely generic and unmarked, but then I found this label on the bottom, so I think this came off of that tube. This is cut-all lubricant part number 166K12A for models K9AB and K11. Oh, so apparently there was a K9AB also. Cut-all company, a division of the Blackstone Industries Incorporated, Bethel, Connecticut. I already got all the dust and crap that was in the bottom there and dumped that out, but what was also in there, you know, it would have been nice if a good belt was in there, but at least this was in there. And I could tell just by looking at it, this is the remnants of the belt. And it must have been one of these situations where whatever material this belt was made out of, it just turned to garbage over the years. And probably the first time this thing was attempted to be fired up, it probably just broke it apart, because it's literally just a handful of little pieces and a couple of big chunks here. But what's great about that is now I know what cross section of belt I need to find for this thing. So when I'm sourcing a round rubber belt, I can measure this cross section and go by that. We even got the warranty reply card. Was never sent in. Here's a little flyer that basically talks about what this is. They're calling this the cut-all K12 the die maker's saw. Well, that's interesting. Shows an individual on the top here. It looks like almost looks like he's, I don't know what he's cutting out there. Almost like on a big cylinder or something. It says curved or flat base plate. Well, I only see one base. There's only one base plate on the machine, so unless it's reversible, then maybe there was an extra base plate that's missing. Oh, you can order it. I see. The model K12C is the curved base plate. The model K12F is the flat base plate. Look at this. Yeah, so here's the little flyer that was in there. But then what I was looking at down here, it kind of blew my socks off, was there's actually the suggested price of this thing. Well, I don't know if that's a suggested retail or what this sold for, but $550. I wonder what year this is. Because if this is, you know, fairly old, then $550 old money. This was a seriously expensive piece of equipment. That's interesting. Talks about what came with this thing. Came with 2 extra screws for the chisel block. That must be where the cutter goes. A 5/64 inch hex wrench for the 8/32 guide tube set screws. 1 container of cut-all oil. 1 beeswax lubricant, which I bet you that's to put on the base plate to help the base plate slide around more easily on top of the surface you're cutting. And then over here we got the 1 ounce tube of lubricant. I think that's the stuff that's leaking. The owner's manual, the parts price list, and the application note. On the back here, talks about other parts and accessories. Get the lamp with the bayonet base. That's the replacement bulb for $1.75. The belt, $3.60 is what the replacement belt was back then. Rigid guide foot. It talks about a rigid guide foot. I wonder if that's already on the saw right now or if it's missing. Steel rule die blades. Genuine cut-all saw blades. So these are all different types of blades, apparently. And I got a few envelopes of blades. We'll have to take a look at those and see what the deal is with those. Here's our accessories. You could get optional 230 volt motor, optional radio frequency suppressor, optional safety guard covering the rear of machine. Oh, okay, so apparently you could get a rear cover. It was an option for $15. The circle cutting attachment, which is what I've only got a couple of the pieces to. Oh, actually I'm looking at this picture of it right there, and I can see right in the picture there's a little thing. So you can just see that little doohickey right there. Bet you that's this right here. And this is a hoot. When I looked on eBay and I looked at what these are selling for, I saw several of them that had sold without the case, and then there were some with the case. Well, apparently the carrying case was an option, and it wasn't a cheap option. It was $34.50 for the case. So it's too bad the case is in such rough shape. It's delaminating. The materials coming off of it from being exposed to dampness. I wonder if I could just hot glue that back on, or glue it back on. Not only do I have the original case, I found this key, and it turns out this is the actual original key for this thing. It's got this funky old lock on it, which, oh, no, it works. Okay, so I wonder how many guys have the original case and key. Came with this wrench. It only mentions one hex wrench, but there's 2 hex wrenches in the box here. Oh, okay, so the back of this sheet is showing all of the different blades. Looks like there were 10 blades per package, and the most expensive blades were the number 7 for cloth only. Oh, okay. That's the other place where I've seen something like this used. I've seen a unit like this used. It was used in the textile industry for when they would have multiple layers of cloth and they wanted to cut through all the layers in one shot. They actually used a special knife blade on a machine like this to cut that. So that's what those expensive blades are. Yeah, those are the most expensive blades. And then, so those were $3.80 a piece back in the day. The second most expensive, also for cutting layers of paper and soft materials. Number 8 for fine work and soft materials. I'm just looking to see if there's anything about metal. General work and hard materials. Here's the number 32 is for cutting die board for steel ruled dies and other wood. Huh. Interesting. Ah, yes, the good old days when you got a replacement parts price list with part numbers right with the unit when you bought it, and full exploded diagram showing a breakdown so you could figure out which part every single part in the thing was. Very cool. Okay, and here's the owner's manual. Water stained, but the pages are not all stuck together, so that's good to know. Very cool. Very cool indeed. So here's a photograph of some industrious young man. That almost looks like he's doing I don't know if that's just something that's so big that's laid out on the floor, or if they're actually like cutting something into a floor. Here's a photo of the saw being put to work to cut out a saw that says cut all. Here's a page inside the owner's manual that has almost like photographs of the blades. So it might be a little easier to identify some of the blades that way. Alright, so I found this one little screw. It's got surface rust on it, and surmised that it might be a spare screw, and sure enough, these 2 screws right here that hold the blade in, they actually look like the like this screw here, so that's a spare screw. The blade that's in there right now looks like it might be a blade for, I'm not sure. Looks like it's got a lot of wear on it is what it looks like. So there's a little lever right here. You can pull this lever up and that releases this and allows you to rotate the head around and lock it in several positions. So you can have this closer to the back or the side or the front or this side right here. So that's that side. Oh, actually there's no hole for over here, so that's interesting. You can front, this side, or rear. And then there's a control right here I can't turn. I don't know whether or not it's stuck or if it just hasn't been turned in so long. It's got a stop right here, so it's turned all the way over to soft. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that does turn. Actually, that just is turning the... I don't know if that's actually even turning anything. Well, I'm not going to mess with that right now. So let's look at the blades I picked up with this thing. Don't know what's in these envelopes. See if we got lucky here. This envelope is the only one that doesn't look like all the others, and it's empty, so I don't know what was in there. Alright, so here's 3 blades in here. This is a sealed package. And just says 3 genuine cut-all blades. Oh, that looks like a little number 13 right there. Maybe that's how you tell what these are. Those are 8s, those are 24s, 25s. Don't know what those are. Number 0. The 11s, 6s. Number 3s. Here we go, number 13s. Number 11s. Alright, so here's another package of number 13s, also unopened. Well, let's open one of these up and see what it looks like. Yeah, and so the blades have surface rust in them, but just to show you what that blade looks like. So that's what it looks like with my finger. I just took a second to put these in order from the lowest number to the highest. So this is a unopened envelope of number 0 blades, which is for thin layers of soft materials. And this is another envelope for those, but it's empty. These are number 3s for fine work and soft materials. These are open. Wow, I thought those other blades were small. There's almost a full package of number 23s. Alright, I finally sorted out all the blades, and it looks like it basically must have come with an assortment of blades, because the blade list in the owner's manual omits a lot of the numbers that are in that accessory blade list. And so it looks like I got a decent assortment of blades to play around with this thing if I can source a replacement belt. I'm not paying $35 for that belt from that vendor. I did check the cross section of the belt is 3/16 of an inch, so I'll go online and see if I can't find some sources for some old projector belts and stuff like that, and see if there's any that match that cross section, and then I'll get a rough dimension length, and maybe I'll order a belt, try it out. I'm not even going to bother cleaning it up for right now.